Welcome to Gita Verse Hub. This is not a channel about religion in the conventional sense. It is not a space for belief, debate, or dogma. Gita Verse Hub is a space for reflection. Here, we do not rush through verses. We sit with them. We listen to what they reveal about us. The Bhagavad Gita is often approached as a spiritual scripture, a philosophical text, a religious dialogue. But at its heart, the Gita is something far more intimate. It is a map of the human mind under pressure. That is why, on this channel, we explore one verse at a time, not to accumulate knowledge, but to cultivate clarity. In our previous episode, we reflected on verse 1.1. A blind king, Dhritarashtra, asks a single question. What are my sons and the sons of Pandu doing? It was not a neutral question. It was shaped by attachment. And from that one question, we learned conflict begins with partiality. Attachment distorts perception. When mind becomes more important than right, confusion is already born. That question set the psychological foundation of the entire Gita. Today, as we move from verse 1.2 to verse 1.19, we remain inside that same psychological space. Krishna has still not spoken. Arjuna has still not collapsed. Yet, everything essential is already unfolding. This section of the Gita is a mirror, showing us how fear forms, how insecurity speaks, and how inner alignment silently stands firm. Let us enter Kurukshetra again, not as observers of history, but as students of our own inner life. The battlefield of Kurukshetra stands ready. Two vast armies face each other. On one side, the Kauravas, larger in number, richer in weapons, supported by powerful warriors. On the other, the Pandavas, fewer in number, but united, disciplined, and inwardly aligned. The war has not yet begun. No arrows have been released. No conches have sounded. And yet, something has already shifted. Sanjay Vach Drishta tu Pandavanink Yuddhan Duryodhanastada Acharya Mupashangamya Raja Vachanam Bravita. Sanjay speaks. After seeing the army of the Pandavas arranged in military formation, King Duryodhana approached his teacher and spoke his words. This is Bhagavad Gita Chapter 1, verse 1.2. At first glance, it seems simple, almost ordinary. But the Gita never speaks casually. Every moment matters. Every silence speaks. The verse begins with Drishtva, meaning having seen, not attacked, not challenged, simply seen. Duryodhana looks at the Pandava army, and in that moment, something inside him tightens. Because what he sees is not chaos. He sees order. He sees discipline. He sees clarity. The Pandavas are Vyudham, arranged with intelligence, purpose, and calm. And this sight unsettles him. According to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, This verse reveals something crucial. Duryodhana has no strategic reason to be afraid. His army is larger. His resources are superior. His side is confident on paper. Yet, fear arises. Why? Because fear does not come from weakness. Fear comes from misalignment. When action is not rooted in righteousness, even power feels unsafe. Here's the subtle detail the Gita wants us to notice. Duryodhana does not address his soldiers. He does not rally his commanders. Instead, he walks towards his teacher, Dronacharya. A king seeking reassurance, a leader seeking validation. This is not strategy. This is psychology. True leadership flows outward, but insecurity flows sideways. Duryodhana's movement tells us everything. He doubts loyalty. He fears comparison. He senses instability. Before a single arrow flies, his inner battlefield is already disturbed. The Gita is quietly asking us, what does your first reaction reveal about you? Notice something else? The Pandavas do not speak. They do not posture. They do not announce strength. Their preparation speaks for them. And that silence becomes louder than words. Order has a presence. Clarity has weight. And chaos always feels threatened by it. Ancient thinkers observed this truth long ago. Adi Sankaracharya taught that unrighteous action can never create inner steadiness. Vedantic philosophy reminds us, the mind cannot rest when conscience is restless. Duryodhana's fear is not tactical. It is existential. Because deep down he knows this war is not aligned with dharma. This verse is not ancient history. It plays out every day. In work life, the loudest leader is often the most insecure. True confidence does not announce itself. It organizes quietly. In relationships, control often hides fear of loss. Trust arises only when intention is clean. In our inner world, anxiety appears not because something is wrong, but because something is out of alignment. Let the verse speak directly to you. Preparation brings calm. Attachment breeds fear. Discipline creates presence. Power without clarity collapses inwardly. Silence, grounded in truth, unsettles noise. Ask yourself, where do I feel threatened? Even when I appear strong, where am I seeking reassurance instead of offering clarity? Because the Gita reminds us, the first defeat is never external. It begins as disturbance within. Now let us head back to the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Pashyaitam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum Vyudham Drupada Putrena Tava Shishyena Dhamata. Duryodhana says, my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the sons of Drupada. This is Bhagavad Gita Chapter 1, verse 1.3. On the surface, it sounds respectful. But the Gita is never concerned with surface meaning alone. Listen carefully, not to the words, but to the tone behind them. Duryodhana says, "Behold the great army." He is pointing, drawing attention, almost insisting. Why would someone with greater strength need to point out the strength of the other side? Because fear wants company. Then comes the sharpest detail in the verse. Your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupada. This is not accidental. Dronacharya trained Drishtadumna, the very commander of the Pandava army, and Duryodhana reminds him of it. Politely, indirectly, but clearly. This is not praise. This is pressure. According to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, this verse reveals Duryodhana's deep insecurity. He fears that Drona's heart may lean towards the Pandavas. So, what does fear do? It subtly questions loyalty, without openly accusing. This is a classic move of insecurity. I trust you, but remember where you stand. You are with us, right? Fear rarely confronts directly. It manipulates through implication. Notice the pattern. In verse 1.2, fear arises. Fear seeks validation, approaching the teacher. Fear disguises itself as observation in verse 1.3. Duryodhana is not speaking to inform. He is speaking to stabilize himself. And in doing so, he reveals his inner state to the Gita and to us. In Vedantic thought, speech is the first outward leak of the inner mind. A settled mind speaks simply. An unsettled mind explains excessively. Duryodhana's words are careful, layered, political, because he is no longer grounded. Once again, the Pandavas do not speak. Their army remains silent. Their alignment remains intact. Only one side is talking. And it is not the side at peace. This is one of the Gita's quiet laws. Noise is often the echo of inner imbalance. You may recognize this moment. At work, when someone highlights others' strength excessively, it often masks their own insecurity. In relationships, passive, aggressive reminders replace honest trust. In ourselves, we explain too much when we feel unsure. The Gita is not judging Duryodhana. It is revealing him. Let the verse speak inwardly. Insecurity seeks reassurance. Fear disguises itself as observation. Attachment questions loyalty. Calm does not need commentary. Alignment does not defend itself. Ask yourself gently, where do I speak from clarity And where do I speak from fear? Do my words come from stability or from the need to control outcomes? Because the Gita reminds us, speech reveals what silence could not hide. Once fear finds its voice, it rarely stops speaking. And once fear begins to speak, it begins to count. This is where we are now. Duryodhana has already pointed out the Pandavas' strength. He has already questioned loyalty, indirectly, carefully. Now, he does something else. He starts listing names. Atra Shura Maheshwasa Bhima Arjuna Samayudhi Yuyudhano Viratascha Drupadascha Maharatha Drishtaketuschekitana Kasirajascha Vidyavan Purujit Kuntibhojascha Shaibyascha Nara Pungava Yudhamanushcha Vikranta Uttamojascha Vidyavan Shalbhadra Draupadescha Sarva Eva Maharatha. Duryodhana continues. Here are heroes, mighty archers, equal in battle to Bhima and Arjuna, Yuyudhana, Virata, and Drupada, the great warrior. Drishtaketu, Chekitan, and the valiant king of Kashi, Purujit, Kuntibhoj, and Shaibya, the best of men, Yudhamanyu, the strong, Uttamoja, the brave, the son of Shubhadra, and the sons of Draupadi, all great warriors indeed. This is the Bhagavad Gita Chapter 1, verses 1.4 through 1.6. Listen carefully to what is happening. Not strategically, psychologically. Duryodhana is not planning. He is reassuring himself. Each name he speaks is not information. It is an attempt at control. Because when fear grows, the mind tries to stabilize itself through enumeration. If I can name it, I can manage it. But this is an illusion. Every warrior Duryodhana names belongs to the Pandavas' side. He is not boasting his own army. He is reciting the strength of the opposition. Why? Because fear fixates outward. An anxious mind does not dwell on its own resources. It obsesses over perceived threats. This is a timeless human pattern. According to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, this obsessive listing reveals Duryodhana's lack of inner confidence. He possesses power. He possesses allies. He possesses advantage. But he lacks righteous alignment. And without dharma, the mind cannot rest. No matter how many names are spoken, notice something subtle. These names represent loyalty born of gratitude, strength rooted in purpose, warriors bound not by fear but by principle. Duryodhana senses this, and that is what unsettles him most. Because strength tied to conviction cannot be negotiated with. Still, The Pandavas remained silent. No boasting, no enumeration, no reassurance speeches. Only presence, only order, only readiness. The contrast deepens. One side stands grounded, the other speaks compulsively. In Vedantic psychology, counting is a symptom. It arises when the mind loses its center and begins to orbit fear. We see this everywhere. Rechecking messages, recounting risks, replaying scenarios, over-explaining decisions. Not because clarity is absent, but because trust is. You may recognize this moment in leadership, when meetings focus more on competitors than vision. In relationships, when we track what others might do instead of standing in truth. In our inner life, when we list reasons to worry instead of grounding ourselves. The Gita is not condemning this. It is simply showing us this is what fear looks like when it speaks uninterrupted. The more Duryodhana speaks, the more he reveals. Not the Pandava's strength, but his own instability. This is the paradox the Gita exposes gently. The mind that lacks alignment compensates with noise. Ask yourself, where am I counting instead of trusting? Where do I recite threats instead of anchoring myself in clarity? Because the Gita whispers, what is truly yours does not need to be defended through anxiety. After counting the strength of the Pandavas, after naming every warrior that unsettles him, Duryodhana finally turns, not outward, but toward his own side. This moment matters, because when fear can no longer avoid itself, it attempts control. Asmankatu vishashta yeta nibodha dvijuttama nayaka mama sainyasya sanjanartham tana bravimite. Bhavan Bhismascha Karnascha Kripascha Samitinjaya Ashwathama Vikarnascha Saumadatis Tathaivacha. Annecha Bahava Sura Maddarthe Tyakta Jivita Nana Shastra Praharana Sarve Yuddha Vishwarada Aparyaptam Tadasmakam Balam Bhishmabhirakshitam Paryaptam Pidomitesam Balam Dhimabhirakshitam Ayaneshu Cha Sarveshu Yatha Bhagam Vasthida Vismame Vabhirakshantu Bhavantaha Sarva Evahi. Duryodhana says, O best of the Brahmanas, please hear from me about the distinguished commanders of my army, who are especially qualified to lead. There are personalities like yourself, Bhishma, Karna, and Kripa, always victorious in battle. There are also many other heroes, ready to give up their lives for my sake. All well equipped with various weapons and experienced in military science. Our strength, protected by Bhishma, is unlimited, while the strength of the Pandavas, protected by Bhima, is limited. Therefore, all of you must now give full support, each in your respective positions, to Bhishma alone. This is Bhagavad Gita Chapter 1, verses 1.7 through 1.11. And here, fear fully reveals itself. Notice the change. Earlier, Duryodhana was observing. Then he was listening. Now he is directing. But these are not the commands of confidence. They are the instructions of someone trying to hold the structure together. Fear no longer whispers. It organizes. Duryodhana begins by addressing his teacher again, respectfully, formally, but the subtext remains unchanged. According to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, this is not courtesy, it is anxiety. He is still unsure of Drona's hurt, so he flatters. Fear often disguises itself as respect. Then comes the most revealing line. Our strength, protected by Bhishma, is unlimited. The Pandava's strength, protected by Bhima, is limited. On the surface, this sounds reassuring. But psychologically, it is defensive. Why compare at all if confidence is already settled? Bhishma is mighty, but Bhishma is also bound by vows, bound by loyalty, bound by inner conflict. Bhima, on the other hand, is unconflicted strength. Duryodhana senses this, even if unconsciously, and so he asserts superiority, not because it is needed, but because doubt has already entered. Now listen carefully to the final instruction. All of you, stationed in your respective positions, must fully support Bhishma alone. This is not coordination. This is overcompensation. A leader at peace does not need to remind everyone where to stand. A leader at peace trusts alignment. Fear demands enforcement. In Vedantic philosophy and psychology, confidence unifies naturally. Fear centralizes power. Control replaces trust. Duryodhana's command reveals his deepest concern. Hold this together, don't let it collapse. But what collapses first is never the army. It is inner coherence. You may recognize this pattern. In leadership, excessive oversight replaces vision. In relationships, rules replace trust. In ourselves, rigidity replaces presence. The Gita is not condemning this. It is illuminating it. The more Duryodhana tries to secure strength, the more he reveals uncertainty. The more he commands unity, the more fractured his inner state appears. This is the silent truth the Gita keeps showing us. Control is not power. It is fear asking to be obeyed. Ask yourself, where am I trying to control outcomes instead of anchoring myself in clarity? Where do I issue instructions because trust feels risky? Because the Gita whispers, what is truly strong does not need to be held together by force. Up to this moment, everything has happened inside the mind. Fear has appeared, it has spoken, it has counted, it has commanded. Now, it seeks something else. Not clarity, not truth, but reassurance. Because when inner conviction is weak, the mind looks for external sound. Tasya sanjanayan harsham kuru vidha pitamaha simhanadam vinoditcha shankham dadmau pratapavan. Then Bhishma, the great valiant grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly, like the roar of a lion, giving Duryodhana joy. This is Bhagavad Gita Chapter 1, verse 1.12. And with this, silence breaks. Notice something essential. Bhishma does not blow the conch to challenge the enemy. He blows it for Duryodhana. The verse is explicit, giving Duryodhana joy. This is not a war signal. It is emotional reassurance. According to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, this moment reveals the inner condition of the Kaurava side. Duryodhana needs encouragement. Not because the army is weak, but because his confidence is. So Bhishma, bound by duty and affection, offers what he can. A sound, a symbol, a roar, meant to steady a shaken heart. The verse compares the conch to a lion's roar. But here is the subtle irony. A lion roars from fullness, from dominance, from unchallenged presence. This roar, however, is meant to create courage, not express it. It is performative strength. And performative strength always arises when inner strength feels uncertain. Up to now, fear was thinking. Now, fear becomes sound. This is important. Because sound bypasses reason. It moves emotion directly. When logic cannot settle the mind, noise is used to override it. This is not strategy. This is psychology. Bhishma is mighty. Bhishma is respected. Bhishma is unmatched. But Bhishma is also torn. He knows the Pandavas stand on dharma. He knows the war is unjust. And yet, he stands where he must stand. So his conch does not express joy. It creates it for someone else. This is the tragedy beneath the sound. The Gita is not celebrating the roar. It is exposing its purpose. When confidence is natural, it does not need amplification. When sound is needed to feel strong, strength is already under question. This moment repeats endlessly. In leadership, big announcements hide fragile vision. In social spaces, loud certainty masks inner doubt. In ourselves, we distract instead of reflect. Music, noise, activity, anything but silence. Because silence reveals truth. Ask yourself honestly, where do I use noise to avoid facing uncertainty? Where do I seek reassurance instead of grounding myself in clarity? Because the Gita whispers softly, true courage does not need sound, it needs alignment. A single gong has sounded, a roar meant to comfort one man, and for a brief moment, it seems as though reassurance has arrived. But the Gita is not finished listening, because now the answer comes. And it does not come from one source, it comes from many. Tata sankascha dhairyascha panavanamka gomukha sahasaivabhya nahanta sa shabdastu mulo bhavata. Thereafter, gong shells, drums, bugles, trumpets and horns were all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous. This is Bhagavad Gita Chapter 1, verse 1.13. One sound has now become many, and the psychological landscape shifts completely. Bhishma's gong was loud, but it was singular. This sound is collective, not organized by command, not initiated for reassurance. It arises naturally, from alignment. The Gita is precise with its language. It does not say loud, it says tumultuous, tumula. This is not chaos. This is power multiplied through unity. Each instrument keeps its own voice, yet, together, they form one overwhelming presence. No one is compensating. No one is reassuring. They are simply ready. Up to now, the Kaurava side has been speaking, explaining, directing, reassuring. The Pandava side has been silent. Until now. And when they respond, they do not respond with words. They respond with being. According to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, this collective sound depicts inner confidence. The Pandavas are not providing strength. They are expressing readiness. There is no anxiety beneath this sound. No insecurity seeking cover. It is sound that rises because conviction is already settled. Notice the instruments: gongs, drums, horns, trumpets, different forms, different tones, yet no confusion. This is the sound of alignment without uniformity. A profound truth. Unity does not require sameness. It requires shared purpose. This sound does not comfort one man. It shakes the field. Why? Because insecurity collapses when it meets unforced confidence. Noise meant to reassure is overwhelmed by resonance that needs no reassurance. This is the turning point. You have seen this. In teams, one anxious voice tries to motivate. Then, a united group simply shows up prepared. In movements, not slogans, but shared conviction changes momentum. In your inner world, thoughts arguing, Then clarity arrives without effort, and suddenly the mind becomes still. The Gita is teaching without preaching. What is aligned does not shout, yet when it speaks, it is undeniable. The Pandavas did not respond quickly. They responded completely. Ask yourself, does my expression come from reassurance seeking or from inner alignment? Do I make noise to feel strong, or does strength speak through me naturally? Because the Gita reminds us, conviction resonates, anxiety echoes. The collective resonance has spoken. The field has felt it. And now, from that vast soundscape, two figures come into focus. Not generals, not strategists, but symbols. This is where the Bhagavad Gita subperceives frames. From psychology to presence. Tata Sweter Haryati Yukte Mahati Syandane Stito Madhavaha Pandavaschaiva Divvo Shankho Pradbhunat Panchajanya Rishikeshu Devadattan Dhananjaya Pondrang Dadno Mahashankhang Bhimakarma Vrikodara Ananta Vijayang Raja Kuntiputru Yudhishthira Nakulaha Sahadevascha Shuhush Manipushpako Kashyasya Parameshvasya Shikandicha Maharatha Drishtadumno Viratascha Shatyakischa Parajita Drupado Draupadeyascha Sarvasha Prithivipate Shaubhadrascha Mahabahu Shankhanadan Prithaka Prithaka. Then Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed in a great chariot drawn by white horses, sounded their divine conch shells. Lord Krishna blew his conch shell, Panchajanya. Arjuna blew his, Devadatta. And Bhima, the voracious eater and performer of the Herculean tasks, blew his conch, Pondra. King Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti, blew his conch, Ananta Vijaya. Nakula and Shahadeva blew Shughosha and Manipushpaka. That great archer, the king of Kashi, the great fighter Shikhandi, Drishtadumna, Virata, and the unconquerable Satyaki, Drupada, the sons of Draupadi, and the mighty armed son of Subhadra, all blew their respective conch shells. These are Bhagavad Gita Chapter 1, verses 1.14 through 1.18. And something profound has happened. Until now, sound emerged from many mouths. Now, sound flows from the center. The chariot of Krishna and Arjuna. This is no ordinary chariot. It is not described for decoration. It is described because presence has entered the field. The Gita mentions the horses. White. Why? White symbolizes clarity, purity of intent, Shatva, balanced awareness. This chariot is not driven by aggression. It is guided by consciousness. And the one holding the reins is not a warrior driven by outcome, but the embodiment of wisdom itself. This Gita is critical. Before Arjuna, before Bhima, before any human hero, Krishna sounds his conch first. The conch is named Panchajanya. According to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, this is deeply symbolic. It means divine assurance precedes human action. Before courage is demanded, support is already present. Before the warrior must face doubt, guidance has already arrived. Only after Krishna does Arjuna blew Devdatta. The name itself means given by grace. This is not self-generated confidence. This is courage received. The Gita is showing us something quietly revolutionary. Strength, aligned with wisdom, does not arise from ego. It arises from surrender to clarity. Then comes Bhima. His conch, Pondra, sounds next. Bhima represents immense physical strength, emotional intensity, unfiltered power. But notice, his sound follows Krishna and Arjuna. Power does not lead. Power serves alignment. This is not chaos. This is order. Now, the sound spreads outward. Yudhishthira, dharma and steadiness. Nakula and Sahadeva, humility and skill. Satyaki, Virata, Drupada, loyalty and vetter. Shikhandi and Drishtadyumna, destiny and resolve. The sons of Draupadi, future and continuity. Abhimanyu, youthful courage, yet to be tested. Each conch is distinct. Each voice is honored. No one is drowned out. This is unity without erasure. Remember what came before. On the Kaurava side, one conch to comfort one man. On the Pandava side, many conches expressing shared readiness. One side needed reassurance. The other needed no explanation. The Gita is quietly saying, when divine wisdom guides action, fear may still arise, but it does not lead. This is important, because soon Arjuna will tremble. But notice, he trembles after alignment is established, not before. This moment appears again and again in your inner world. When clarity comes first, even difficult action becomes possible. In leadership, when vision leads, strength organizes itself naturally. In life decisions, when wisdom holds the reins, courage follows quietly, steadily. Ask yourself, who is holding the reins of my chariot? Is it fear, impulse, expectation, or clarity? Because the Gita is preparing us for what comes next. The sound has reached its peak. It has moved across the field, through soldiers, through banners, through chariots and armor. And now, it does something else. It enters the body. Sa ghosho dhartarashtranan hridayani vidarayat namascha prithiving Jaiva Tumulo Abhyanundayan. The tumultuous sound vibrating through the sky and the earth tore apart the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. This is Bhagavad Gita Chapter 1, verse 1.19. And in the single line, the Gita exposes the difference between outer power and inner stability. The verse does not say their bodies trembled. It does not say their weapons failed. It says their hearts were torn. In the Gita, the heart is not emotion alone. It is the seat of conviction. What breaks here is not courage. It is certainty. The sound does not injure them. It reveals them. This sound is not random noise. It is resonance born of alignment, and alignment is unbearable to those standing on inner division. The sons of Dhritarashtra are powerful, but they are not united inwardly. They stand for inheritance, not truth, for possession, not purpose. So, when sound rooted in conviction arrives, it destabilizes them instantly. Here is the law the Gita is quietly teaching. What is unaligned cannot withstand coherence. The Pandava sound does not threaten. It does not boast. It does not demand surrender. It simply exists fully. And that fullness exposes the cracks in those who rely on structure instead of clarity. The sons of Dhritarashtra are many. They are trained. They are armored. They are prepared for war. Yet, one wave of aligned sound shatters their inner composure. Why? Because numbers create confidence only. When the heart is already at peace. Otherwise, numbers amplify fear. This verse reveals something subtle and unsettling. Sound does not create fear. It magnifies what is already there. The Kaurava hearts were already uneasy, already conflicted, already unstable. The sound simply removed the last layer of denial. The sons of Dhritarashtra fight on the side of adharma, not because they are evil, but because they are attached. And attachment fractures the heart. One part wants victory, another part senses injustice. When such a heart is confronted by clarity, it cannot remain intact. It splits. This moment plays out constantly. When truth enters a room built on pretense. When clarity confronts ego. When coherence exposes confusion. People do not resist truth with logic. They resist it with discomfort. The heart tightens. The ground feels unstable. Not because truth is violent, but because illusion cannot stand before it. The Gita is not celebrating the fear of the Kauravas. It is offering a warning to all of us. If the heart is divided, even harmless truth will feel threatening. Strength without alignment is fragile. Confidence without conscience is brittle. Ask yourself, gently and honestly, what unsettles me when clarity appears? What sound What truth do I secretly hope will not arrive? Because the Gita reminds us, what tears the heart is not sound, but resistance to alignment. Verse 1.19 does not move the story forward. It opens the inner world. It shows us what happens when conviction meets confusion. And it prepares the ground for the most human moment yet to come. But for now, we remain here. If you have ever felt torn between what is right and what is required, felt capable yet uncertain, felt strong yet deeply conflicted, then the next verses are not optional, they are personal. Take time with the verses today, let them settle. And when you are ready, return with us. Because in the next video of Gita Verse Hub, Arjuna will speak. And in his words, you may hear your own. If these verses created clarity, you may like this video as a quiet acknowledgement. If you wish to walk through the Bhagavad Gita slowly, thoughtfully, and verse by verse, you are welcome to subscribe to Gita Verse Hub. If a reflection, question, or insight arose while listening, you are invited to share it in the comments. This space is for inquiry, not debate. And if this episode may serve someone else at this moment in their life, you may share it as an offering. Until we meet again, observe carefully, act consciously, and let clarity guide you forward. This is Gita Verse Hub, where verses are not rushed, they are lived. Until then, Hare Krishna.